Hello, everyone. We've got a very exciting announcement and why I've chosen to join Zack Tershwell, our exploration manager, online today. Hannon is an amazing company. We set out to find the very biggest deposits we could in the globe, and that we've done in Peru, and we've got Previsto there that is advancing very strongly. We put out further great gold results. This is a big 5 by 5 kilometer system. The core, we're starting to build out that high grade core. We've just been through our public participation workshop, so we're putting the permits in. That was the last step to put the Declaration Impacto Ambiental, the key permit for drilling. We're about to submit that. Now that's going to take us through until the end of the year at the best, and maybe early into 27. And then if that is granted around that period, that's the wet season. So we're not drilling until Q2 when it dries out and there's no cloud up in and around that Previsto area. And that put us into a bit of a structural gap where we wanted to maintain momentum, and that we are. We've got 6 geologists on the ground in Peru, but we weren't drilling until sometime in early Q2 next year if everything goes to that plan. And so we've been looking and thinking about what to do. We've got $6 million cash in the bank. We've got an amazing bull market. We've got amazing experience in and around the company of discovery and creating billions of dollars through discovery for shareholders. So what did we do? We found these drill ready projects in a place we know very well in Sweden. High grade gold, ready to drill rig ready to mobilize in the next couple of weeks. And here we go again. Here we go again, looking at historic old gold fields, high-grade gold at surface, and drilling under those areas, and hopefully making further discoveries. So this is clearly not a pivot from Peru. It's clearly adding more momentum to a stock and doing what we know best. And if we have multiple discoveries in the company, it can only lead to much more shareholder value, without a doubt. So that is the highest level here on what we're trying to do. I've spent decades working in Sweden. Sweden's got its mojo. They're permitting lots of mines. It is very, very, very much open for business. Amazingly underdone in terms of discovery. It has been predominantly up until the 90s, state-based exploration, lots of discoveries in the space, but the last 20 years have been dominated by smaller companies, and some discoveries have been made, but it's a vast country and so much more to find. So we're targeting high-grade systems. The key project here, and there's 3 of them, is the one we had drill permitted first, and what we're announcing, we'll sign that drill permit today, literally, as we make this announcement, is Stavaträsk, and that is a Boliden analog. Now, Boliden was one of Sweden's greatest and Europe's greatest gold mines. It was over 4 million ounces at 15 grams per ton. It was an extremely rich deposit. And Stavaträsk exists 20 kilometers to the north of that project, of that mine, Boliden, on the same structure. And we're seeing the same rocks, the massive sulfides with gold and copper and silver in outcrop, up to 93 grams in outcrop sitting there, and we're going to be drilling under that outcrop, and there's boulder fields 100, 700 meters away with those same rocks. And then a kilometer or 2 away, more boulders. So it's an early stage project, but it's got all the characteristics that tick all those boxes that make it look like the next Boliden. At least geologically, let's see if it's got the volume and scale to mimic Boliden. But that's a key point. Ådelfors, we know what to do with historic gold projects. This is absolutely historic. It was first mined in 1738. It's said to be Sweden's oldest gold mine, and it's never seen a drill hole. And there was grades, of course, they used to mine at extremely high grades, recorded up to 1,000+ grams there on one thin structure, but they did mine down to something like 280 meters in the day in the 17 and 1800s. So obviously the grade was there to carry them. The secret here will be to find multiple vein and wall rock alteration and gold around those thinner high grades. So there's at least 131 historic mines in the area, and the real secret here will be not only the width of the main zone that's mined down to 280 meters, but the frequency of veins around that and the amount of gold that's in the wall rock. So lots of historic workings. So we know there was lots of structures. We don't know their continuity, but that's what more work will determine. We don't know how much gold's in the wall rock outside the uber high grades, but we know there's grades in the dumps. So we suspect that's the case, and this system extends over kilometers. So a lot to test and do, and that's what the LiDAR in the first instance will help us achieve. And then Skellefteå North is a project to the east of Stavaträsk, and that has been recently drill tested, where we've seen up to a couple of meters at around an ounce gold that has been drilled there. So lots of gold on surface and some modern drilling into that system. This is an option agreement where we are testing the system first, and we'll drill test Stavaträsk. Once we drill 2,000 meters in staggered portions, 1,000 and 2,000 meters, we'll issue a million shares to the vendors, a third party. And then if we continue over the next 2 years, spend $2 million in exploration, then we'll issue another 3.5 million shares. There is a royalty we can buy out for a relatively modest cost, and then we own 100% of the projects outright. So a very favourable entry into Sweden, costing us not a cent literally, and then if we like what we see, it will cost us some equity, but then we'll be sharing that with the vendors and the upside. So it's a very much a win-win deal. So a great project, not a pivot from Peru, high-grade gold. We've done it before in Mawson, which has now created something like $3.5 billion between Gold Sky and Southern Cross, and so we've done it before. Let's see if we can do it again around these systems. And I will now pass over to Zack, our exploration manager, who can talk a lot more about the projects and give you real substance on what we're trying to do on the ground on these projects.
Very excited to be coming to you today to talk about this new deal that we are announcing. These three incredible gold projects in Sweden, an area that, like Mike said, he knows very well. Also very pleased to have Mike joining me today, so thank you very much. Firstly, the Stavaträsk project. Now, this is the project that is drill ready. We're mobilizing a drill rig in the next few weeks, and it's just a fantastic result to be hitting the ground running in Sweden. Now, Stavaträsk does look like it is a fantastic Boliden analog. So like Mike was saying, it's sitting 20 kilometers north on this major shear system that hosts Boliden itself, in the Skellefteå belt area, which is a well-known gold and base metal mining district. Very advanced mining district, produced a lot of ounces over the years. The geology at Stavaträsk is looking very favourable. We are seeing gold in outcrop at 93 grams per tonne, hosted in a high-grade shear structure. There's a lot of arsenopyrite, some chalcopyrite, and a lot of pyrite too. So there's a gold, copper, and silver signal that we see, which is what you see at Boliden as well. Now, 650 meters to the southeast of that outcropping zone, we have a boulder field. So these boulders, they look like they haven't traveled very far. We believe there's most likely a subcrop very close by. The grades in that boulder field are remarkable as well, up to about 11 grams per tonne gold and 150 grams per tonne silver, with a few percent copper kicking around. Now, that 650 trend is what we see at this surface expression, and of course the first step is going to drill test that trend. We're going to be drilling underneath that outcrop and drilling underneath those boulders to see what we can find underneath. Once we have defined a few mineralized structures there, we're going to step out along the trend as well as down dip to very quickly understand the scale potential and the grade potential of this system. And that first 2,000 meters of drilling, I think we'll have a very good idea of what the system is looking like. Stavaträsk is a shear hosted gold system, so it's structurally controlled in a shear system that we don't know how wide that shear is. And what we see as upside as well is at Boliden, the highest grade gold was hosted in quartz tourmaline veins, which were a slightly later event. Now at Stavaträsk, we haven't seen those quartz tourmaline veins, but that is what we're going to be looking for when we are drilling. The first phase of drilling will be to understand the scale potential. We will be drilling oriented diamond drill core as expected so that we can understand the structure of the system very quickly, understand those geological controls, which will better inform the follow-up drill programs along strike and down dip. So it's a shear hosted system. Like I said, we don't know the width of that system, but we'll hopefully find that out very quickly. Systems like this are known to be mined, most likely open pit mining approach with a turn to underground as the grade can develop to higher grades at depth. And that's what we see, what they've done at Boliden, and this analog system looks very much the same at this early stage, and that is what it could potentially turn into down the track. So the boulder field at Stavaträsk, which is 650 meters to the southeast of our 93-gram outcrop. We have pretty good confidence in this boulder field because two main reasons. The boulders themselves are quite angular, so they've got high angles on these boulders. That means that they have not traveled very far, because if the boulder is traveling a long way, it becomes more rounded and more circular and softened edges in the shape. So that's one really good indication. The second one is if you walk along that trend from the outcrop to the boulder field, you will see that you're in an area of no boulders and then very suddenly a bunch of boulders all around the place. That is another indication that tells us that outcrop is quite close by. We'll be able to confirm this after a very short period of time. So only like one or two drill holes, short drill holes that are close to surface, drill under that boulder field, and we'll be able to find that structure, which is the intention, the aim of that first pass of drilling. So from the rocks we see on the surface, we have a pretty good understanding of the structure. Of the minimal data that is available and is in the public, we're able to see that some gold anomalism along up to a 2 kilometer trend in that same orientation, going from gold outcrop, gold in boulders, and then another drill hole down on the same trend. So that is really exciting, and I think it shows the upside and the potential of the scale of this system. This system at Stavaträsk is traceable over a significant area. Up to 2.5 kilometers we see from the golden outcrop, that boulder field, and also historic drilling, which is evident in the area. Boliden drilled the area in the early 2000s. That data is unavailable, but it gives us confidence that we have a large system on our hands when we see evidence of working and evidence of high-grade mineralization across a 2.5 kilometer area along that same trend line in the northwest to southeast direction. At Stavaträsk, we are building on what we know to be a large system. So we're seeing the mineralization outcropping and in those boulders over the 650 meter trend. That's high grade gold, silver, and copper mineralization. Previously drilled over a 2.5 kilometer trend in that same line of the trend in the northwest to southeast orientation. Our first pass of drilling, the first 2,000 meters to drill at Stavaträsk, that'll help us understand the geometry of the system, the scale and the tenor, as well as the structural controls, which is key to figure out at this early stage. And from there, we'd look for extensions undercover. This style of mineralization, this massive sulfide mineralization, it would show a very strong anomaly in an electromagnetic survey, and feel pretty confident that that will be able to show us the continuation along strike and down dip. And that would be the next step to follow our 2,000 meter drill program. Our first pass drill program will be relatively short holes, just to test the surface extension, the first 100 or 150 meters from surface, as well as one or two holes down dip. I would like to see the down dip potential in the early stage as well, but primarily we'll test the near surface mineralization, as that is the safest and the cheapest way to operate. While Stavaträsk is our main focus, and that is a drill permitted project with the rig mobilizing in the next few weeks. In parallel, we've got the two other projects, Ådelfors, which is in the south, a historic mining area, mined over hundreds of years with remarkably high grades. As it's a historic mining area, our first step is going to run a LiDAR analysis and survey. So that LiDAR data will show us the extent of the historic workings across the area. Once we have an idea of that, we can use that to hone in our second phase of focus there, which would be likely some geological mapping just to understand the controls of that system before any drilling takes place. But as an extensively historically mined area, we can see a lot of historic workings just walking around in the forest. But what the LiDAR will do will strip away that vegetation, and it'll show a lot more workings that we can see when we go and visit the field ourselves. And at the Skellefteå North project, which we have some very recent drilling on, 1.8 meters at 28 grams per ton with visible gold in veins. That system has only been tested over a 600-meter footprint, and the outcropping and boulder mineralization there along that trend is going for 6.5 kilometers. So that is only 5 or 10% of that system that has actually been tested in the footprint. So that remains a lot of upside open in all directions. Priority number 3 of our projects there. And we will do a lot more work at Stavaträsk and Ådelfors, working these projects up in tandem. We're very excited to mobilize the drill rig in the next few weeks, so please watch this space for results to come.
Thanks, Zack, for that detail. As you can see, these are amazing high-grade gold projects, discoveries in the making, and opportunities like this don't come along very often. We know Sweden very well. This is a cost-effective entry into drill testing some very high-grade projects. It's not a pivot from Peru. There's a slotting in projects at half-time while we're waiting for the full-time siren in Peru. We've got amazingly great discovery in Peru that we're not going to walk away from. In fact, we've got most of our time and money going there at the moment while we have a look in Sweden. We've made money before by bringing projects together, making multiple discoveries, and then adding value in whatever way may come if that occurs. So track record, love Sweden, love high-grade gold, go Hannon.